Good afternoon, class. We are going on lesson 3 of Unit 10. We're going to be looking at 3 guided practice problems. The independent practice problems are only 5 problems, and in order to build up your skills so you'll be able to do well on the test, basically I'm going to be going over just the guided practice for Unit 10 to give you the help that you need. And then I'm also available during our class time to discuss any topics. Well, anyways, we're going to get on into lesson 3. Lesson 3 is from page 886. Basically, it's called similarity transformations. So we're looking at enlargements, reductions, and scale factors. So essentially, there's a couple problems that they're looking at, number 1 and 2 in your book, and it says determine whether the dilation from A to B is an enlargement or a reduction. Then find the scale factor of the dilation. So we need to look, how does the shape A, this triangle, compare to when it goes to B? Well, first of all, I'm going to look, and we're going to look at the size of A. Well, does A get smaller or bigger in comparison to B? And it looks like A is this tiny triangle and B is the larger triangle. So that would be classified as an enlargement, because from A to B, the triangle gets bigger. All right, now we need to know the scale factor of the dilation. The dilation is taking the size of the shape and getting it bigger or getting it smaller. So how we do that is we look at a ratio. We're going to look at the ratio of A to B. Since we're going A to B, we're going to have basically a ratio of A over B. And what I mean by that is, let's take the side of A right here, this base of the triangle. That is 4 units. And if we take the base of the larger triangle, B, that's 10 units. So what we're going to do is now have the ratio, sorry, the way that we're going to set it up is actually B over A, because that would be the proportion. If it's an enlargement, you're going to have a fraction that's bigger than 1. If it's a reduction, you're going to have a fraction less than 1. So if B is 10 units across for its base and A is 4, we're going to have 10/4, and we can actually reduce this fraction. If we divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So in an enlargement, you're going to have a fraction that's bigger than 1. And for a reduction, you're going to have a fraction that's less than 1. So 5/2 is bigger than 1. So again, the answer is an enlargement, and the scale factor is 5/2. Okay, now we're going to look at another problem. We're going to look at the rectangle A going to rectangle B. Well, if we look at this, A is the big rectangle and B is the smaller rectangle. So is it an enlargement or a reduction? In this case, if you take A, which is bigger than B, it's going to be known as a reduction. And now what we're going to do is look at the scale factor. And when we look at the scale factor, we're going to again take the base of A, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units across, and the base of B, and if you look, that's 2 units. So since it's a reduction, we know that we're going to have the size being less than 1, the ratio, so that's going to be 2/7, or in this case, we're going to have, again, the B over A sides, and that's going to give us 2/7. So that's pretty much 1 and 2. We're just looking at the shape of A and then seeing how it compares and dilates into B. Is it going to be larger going from A to B? That would be an enlargement. If it's getting smaller, it would be known as a reduction. And then we're going to look at the sides of the shapes and like compare the ratio. Um, so let's look at the last problem of the guided practice, which is problem 3. And then after that, the independent practice is pretty much identical to what we have been doing right now in these problems. You're just going to look at the dilation from A to B, determine if it's a reduction or an enlargement, and find the scale factor. Again, we're going to use the ratio of B over A for both an enlargement or a reduction, and we're going to take the side of B and put it over the side of A when we're comparing the two shapes. All right, so let's look at number 3. Number 3 is a word problem. So I'm going to read you number 3 and then write down the key information. So it says that Michaela has a dollhouse that looks like the house that she lives in. The dimensions of the living room in the house are 15 feet by 10 feet. So this is the living room of Michaela's house. We're going to have 15 feet by 10 feet. And we're also going to have the dollhouse that is 9 inches by 6 inches. And it says, is the living room in her dollhouse dilation of the living room in her house? If so, what is the scale factor? So we have the living room right here. And then we have the living room in the dollhouse. And essentially, we need to determine if it is a dilation. And what we're going to have to look at is the dimensions of each of the shapes. Are they proportional? Meaning, if I look at 15 feet over 10 feet, can it reduce down into 9 feet over 6 feet? So what if I take, or 9 inches over 6 inches, because this is in feet, these units of the living room, and the dimensions of the living room and the dollhouse are in inches. So I'm going to just take 15 over 10 and divide both the numerator and the denominator by 5 because I'm simplifying the fraction. And 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I have a reduced fraction of 3 over 2. Now I'm going to look at the dollhouse, and I'm going to see, oh, it's 9 inches over 6 inches, so I take the greatest basically factor of 9 and 6, and I'm going to divide basically the numerator and denominator by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it looks like the ratio of the sides, they are proportional to one another. So yes, this is a dilation. And it's because we have the same ratios when we reduce the fractions. Okay, so that ends the guided practice portion of this lesson of Unit 10, Lesson 3. I'm going to post Lesson 4 and 5 tomorrow, maybe 6. And then next week we shall wrap up either 6 through 9 and then the unit review, or basically like 7, 8, and 9 and the unit review by Thursday. But basically next week we will definitely be finished with Unit 10. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. I'm definitely here to help. Other than that, have a wonderful day and stay safe.